Good morning, everybody. Happy Friday and welcome on into your Freightwaves Now Community Spotlight. I'm Kaylee Nix and it's Friday morning, so it's time to kick off the best day of the week by talking to one of my favorite people here at Freightwaves. We've got Mary O'Connell joining us today for your community update. Mary, thanks for joining us. Rumor has it we've got a hurricane coming to Chattanooga and it's already starting to get kind of rainy. We got some winds coming on in and it's getting a little freaky out here. How's the weather in St. Louis?
Well, not quite as hurricane heavy. Although I bet you never thought you'd get a hurricane in Chattanooga. Here in St. Louis, we finally had a break in the humidity. It's finally like in the 70s. There's rain every couple days, but it's like a little bit. So I'll take it. We finally have kind of ushered in fall and spooky season, if you will.
Believe it or not, this is actually the third or fourth tropical system that I've interacted with since I've lived here in the Tennessee Valley. And you know what? We're getting some really beneficial rain out of it. So, hey, I will take it, help alleviate some of that drought. We've got Running on Ice coming live to you up this afternoon and a brand new episode. This one's a special one because it's a twofer. We've got two guests on there talking about special partnerships in the cold chain space. Who are they and why are they important?
So this week we are talking to Gather AI and Romark. So we have Michael Leibovitz from Romark and Sean Mitchell from Gather AI. And we really talk about their partnership and how they kind of found each other. And honestly, the episode is a masterclass in the importance of just one phone call from a sales representative, because that's apparently all it took. Halfway through the hour-long phone call, Romark knew they wanted to partner with Gather and they were like, how quickly do I sign? So what a masterclass for sales out there. But looking back on that partnership, it was the solutions that Gather had. And it really actually touches on that part of automation that we've talked about a lot of. Just because you are looking to automate things, that doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to have to, alter jobs entirely or reduce headcount. It just means that you can have the people there that you are automating work on something more efficient or have them work on something else. And that's something that Romark has seen firsthand play out.
I think that's interesting because AI and that decision-making process is one place where I think it has a really good fit, right? Because a lot of it is unemotional and it's not necessarily a person-to-person relationship that you're talking about navigating when you are making some of those decisions. Can you talk a little bit about why this partnership works so well in that space and maybe why people don't necessarily need to be afraid of it? Because it takes out some of the hard parts about decision-making, right? That emotional aspect of it is one of those things that can really make it difficult sometimes.
Yeah. So Romark already had such a great inventory levels. They already had such great warehouse management. And then really Gather AI just said, okay, we can continue this highly accurate inventory level. I think it's at the almost 100% correct inventory management. And that's impressive in and of itself. And so basically Gather just said, okay, we can do that, but we can do it faster than your employees can. It's going to be more accurate. We're going to have pictures of everything. We're going to know exactly where it is in the warehouse. And that freed up those employees to work on, the exceptions, on the things that might not have been in the right spot, on improving different ways. And actually one of the really cool solutions they had is, they've been able to retrain and create career plans for those people working in the warehouse that isn't just, okay, you're going to go to work and count how many pallets are on this shelf and write it down in the spreadsheet. They've been able to kind of create more fulfilling opportunities for those workers in the warehouse, which honestly we always love, because that's one of the complaints that everybody always has working in a warehouse, is that there's not really a lot of career and opportunity advancements. So then they also were able to take those employees, retrain them, put them somewhere else. But then also, they had such strong answers, and through the use of this AI and, Gather specific solutions on how they've utilized space and everything like that. Because Gather has drones that come through and will scan an image, take a picture, scan an item, locate, log where it is in the warehouse. They've actually been able to figure out that they can lower the height on some of their shelves, which will create more space within the warehouse. And that's something that they've always kind of wondered about. But because they have the actual data through this partnership with Gather AI, they've been able to actually implement that. So that's kind of the solutions that we want to see out of the AI space is, saying, oh, it would be great if we could someday do this. Well, now you have the data to back up that decision.
Can you talk a little bit about the example that this sets for some of the other companies in the space who are maybe managing folks' warehouse, not necessarily doing the inventory management themselves or working with the exact inventory, but managing the warehouse working conditions, managing those employees, things like that, and why it sets a good example for what technology can do to really help out in these kind of situations?
Yeah, I think that it's a really good halfway step, because you have warehouses that are much more manual. And obviously, you're going to have some that are always going to need to be manual just because the sheer nature of the product. But for a majority of the warehouses, when you think of them, you either have people on forklifts doing all of the work, or it's a warehouse that's completely dark and there's a robot going around picking every order and loading the trucks. So there really is no in between. This is a great case for that in between of, okay, you still have people working in the warehouse, you still have people here, but you're using them more efficiently, you're using them more effectively, you're able to give them more than just here's a list of inventory or here's a list of things to go find in the warehouse, go. And that's one of they ultimately listened to their employees and figured out what people were looking for and then tried their best to give it to them on top of improving their own inventory and efficiencies and processes. So it's something that is a really nice in between. If you don't want to move to, a dark warehouse full of robots picking everything, this is the perfect case of, just because you try to automate something doesn't mean that everything's completely different. It just means that parts of it change, but it gives you more time to free up and find other ways to be more efficient.
So we've gotten through the majority of this community update without talking about what Remark Logistics actually handles, and it's candy, which I think is so fun to talk about because when we talk about foodstuffs and temperature-controlled warehouses, people automatically go like frozen goods or like produce, right? Those are those two typical things. But candy specifically has very specific storage requirements because if you lose it, we all know like what happens when you leave like your favorite bag of gummy worms or nerds clusters are one of my guilty pleasures. When you leave that in your car in a Tennessee summer day and it gets to be like 140 degrees in your car and you come back and they're all just like melted into one giant gummy cluster, it's terrible. But that really shows that they do have specific requirements. You're looking for cool, dry storage spaces, not necessarily cold, but definitely something temperature controlled. Talk to me a little bit about how the use of AI really helps ensure that those very specific conditions are met, not just talking about keeping things below that freezing mark.
So a lot of the shippers, as we know, that are candy shippers, they have very strict requirements. I mean, like you mentioned, you could get a ball of gummy clusters, which I don't care what you would say, that would not taste as good as each of them individual. That's why they're so good. But also, I'm sure anyone who's ever had a bag of chocolate get a little warm, not quite enough where it melts, but you start to see maybe a white line or some streaking on it. And that automatically makes consumers think that that chocolate's gone bad. When really it just means like the fat has separated from it. It's still fine to eat. It's just not as good. And it's visually not pleasant. And that's something that, candy manufacturers and chocolate manufacturers want to, stay away from. They don't want consumers to open up a bag of Hershey bars, or they don't want you to go make a s'mores and you have this weird separation line on your candy. That's not what anybody's going for. So it really, again, it's not necessarily has to be kept at ultra cold temperatures. It just needs to be kept in a relatively specific environment. And because they are able to say at any given time, or because Romark's able to say at any given time, this is exactly where your product is. This is visually what it looked like in our warehouse, and this is the temperature, and this is exactly where it was located. Because they have those pictures that the drones are able to get, it's so much more reliable, and it's able to say, this is the condition it was in at our warehouse the entire time it was here. And so I think it's the old adage of a picture's worth 1,000 words. And so you can say, yes, our warehouse is up to date. We have no warm spots. We have nothing, or, we really do strive to have the best. But if you can say, oh yeah, here's a picture of what your product looked like the entire time it was here, that's going to speak volumes for that shipper that wants to just ensure their product's integrity.
I love it. Absolutely. A picture is worth 1,000 words, and it's worth a million words when it comes to proof of a product being kept in the right place and in the right conditions. Mary, before we let you go for today, I got to know, talk to me about your favorite candy, or what do you think is the most underrated candy? We're coming up on Halloween pretty soon. People are going to start
Oh.
stocking up those candy bowls, right?
Mhm.
What is your favorite or the most underrated?
To me, the most underrated candy is 100 grand. The chocolate bar that's got the caramel in the middle and like the crispy rice on the outside. It's honestly one of my top tier. Don't get me wrong, I love a good crunch bar. I like it to have a crunch in there. I also am a fruity candy queen, but everyone, like the hype around Nerds Clusters is here. Everyone is understanding it. It is the best freeze dried candy though, in case you haven't tried any of that. But yeah, the most underhyped for me is a 100 grand bar because it's just so good. And if you freeze it, especially the mini bar, and you can it's top tier. Highly recommend.
I love that. I gotta
Highly
say, for me,
recommend.
the most underrated candy for me are the Haribo, the Happy Colas. Those are
Yeah.
so good, and they make me so nostalgic back to my childhood. But my favorite is any shaped Reese's, like the Reese's Ghosts that are out right now. We're about to have
Okay.
Reese's Pumpkins come out. They make them for
The
everything,
Christmas
like
trees.
the Christmas trees, the hearts for Valentine's Day, the Easter eggs. We gotta Reese's. If you're watching us, you got to start making a firework for Fourth of July, so that way we can enjoy them in the summer too.
Or like a flag, maybe. Like
Oh yeah.
we need a summertime Reese's.
And then you can make a s'mores with a Reese's. And we're going on a tangent. I could go all day for this. But Mary, where can people find you, your show, and your newsletter for Running on Ice?
Well, if you want some more content, you can find Running on Ice that comes out today on YouTube in the visual format or any of Freightwave social medias at 2 p.m. today. And then if audio is more your thing, you can find it on podcasts anywhere you get your podcasts, like Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And if that's not enough, you can subscribe to the newsletter on Running on Ice. And if you're sitting there going, maybe I want to go to F3, maybe I don't. Fun fact, there is a code to register for tickets at a discount, arguably one of the best discounts we have right now for Running on Ice subscribers to the newsletter.
There we go. Thanks for joining us this morning, everybody. Go find Mary this afternoon for Running on Ice. We will catch up with you next Friday.
Bye, guys.